Hey guys, Josh here from the Hampshire Business Show, which is taking place on Thursday, the 14th of October at the Ageas Bowl Stadium in Southampton. I'm delighted today. I'm joined by Abby Elliott, who's the Managing Director of Sanondaf Hampshire South. They're actually our safe event partner for the show on the 14th of October. So Abby's going to be telling us all about the measures that we're putting in place, but she's also going to be telling us all about Sanondaf, what they do, the technology they've got, which I think is incredible when she explains it all. So Abby, thank you for your time. Great to see you.
Hi, really nice to be with you, Josh. Thank you very much for inviting me on today.
Awesome, great to see you. So I think, Abby, a great place for us to start this. Do you want to, I suppose, give us all a run through in terms of, Sanondaf, who you guys are and what you do?
Sure. We're not exactly a name that would roll off the tongue sometimes or be hugely familiar to people, but we've certainly been around for a number of years. So Sanondaf, in a nutshell, is a specialist infection prevention and control service provider. And we specifically provide touchless disinfection and decontamination services. What we mean by that is whenever there is either a presence or potential issue of a pathogen contamination. So pathogens basically are harmful microorganisms. There are microorganisms all around us, and so many that are fine, but as we all know, there are some that could be quite harmful. So those could be bacteria, viruses, molds, fungus, yeast. We deal with those issues basically. We're a global business. We first started, actually the business evolved from Malta, which is why the name is Sanondaf. It's not necessarily a British name. A cleaning company commercial cleaning company that had a contract with a number of hospitals, in Malta, was asked to tackle the repetitive issue of healthcare associated infections. And so they investigated into technology and solutions and evolved the solutions that we now have. We're now globally in 14 different countries, from South America to Africa, Asia and Europe. In the UK specifically, we launched in 2014. So we've been around quite a number of years now, nearly 8 years. We're headquartered in Scotland, and we have 25 regional teams across the Isles. So Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and the Channel Islands. So we're pretty we're pretty broad reaching, but I'm specifically Hampshire South.
Nice. And you mentioned there about healthcare, etc. So is there any other industries that you guys work in? I suspect it's quite a broad range.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we did sort of begin in healthcare, and we're still very, very prominent in the healthcare work that we do. As you can imagine, over the last couple of years, we've been enormously busy in hospitals, working with them with decontamination of wards and the specialist areas of the hospital that they use to contain coronavirus as a challenge. But we also work in clinical and scientific research laboratories, university laboratories. So whenever there's any kind of study, they need to decontaminate in between the studies and decontaminate the equipment and all of the environment, and we do a lot of work in that respect. In the general domain, we work with nursing homes, daycare nurseries, schools, colleges, etc., hotels, restaurants. I mean, you can imagine it. Any contamination comes up in any kind of area of life. So there's not really many areas that we haven't worked in. We go on boats, we go on planes, trains. It's kind of any location and any domain.
And in terms of technology, then, because I'm only kind of assuming here, but I suppose for all those different settings that you said that you work in, whether it's like healthcare or schools or university or labs, I'm sure they all present their own issues, right, in terms of the kind of contamination that's going on. So
you need to understand the contamination and the risk and how to deal with it. You need to understand the transmission pathways, really, truthfully. That's a really critical one. We work with 3 different types of technology. The 2 prominent ones would be what we call passive fogging, which is where we fill an entire room or space, an enclosed area, with a hydrogen peroxide vapor. And it has to reach a certain density for us to know that it is actually going to kill or destroy, because you can't kill viruses, but you can destroy them. You can kill bacteria, etc. We need to know that we achieve that density of HPV, we call it, to be effective. And that has a requirement for a kind of a dwell time. So we close that area off. and then when the vapor has settled, it begins to break back down into water and oxygen. So a really key thing is the technique that we use leaves no chemical residue, which is really, really important, specifically for, you know, any kind of healthcare setting or nursing home or daycare nurseries where you've got vulnerable people who may have delicate, fragile skin, etc. We also use electrostatic spray, which is really, really valuable when we're doing really awkward confined sort of equipment. So in hospitals, a lot of intensive care units, they need, or neonatal units, they need very small, intricate equipment decontaminated, and our electrostatic technique can resolve that. We also have another technique, which is a device I personally don't yet have in Hampshire, is the Sanondaf, which is using a UV light and extremely powerful suction mechanism to kill and destroy any contamination in upholstery and mattresses and such. So people who suffer from asthma, etc., or any other skin dermatological conditions, that's a really good sort of approach that we can use.
Yeah. Do you know what I found fascinating there? You said that you can't kill viruses, you can destroy them.
Do you want to know why? It's not a living entity. It is a parasite, if you like, the word. Not really like quite the right word, but basically it needs an organism to exist. It cannot exist by itself. So in that sort of sense, it's not technically alive. It lives off its host.
Right. Wow. Look at that. It's fascinating. I was really curious about that one. And just in regards to the show, you know, because obviously I know you're a safe partner, etc. Can you just, I suppose, just give, obviously I know kind of what we're doing together, but do you mind just explaining kind of, you know, what's going to be happening as part of our partnership with you?
Sure, absolutely. So obviously the challenge that we as a world are still facing, we all wish it would have really kind of come to the end of the chapter, but we're still a little bit challenged with it, is coronavirus. Coronavirus is a curious pathogen in that it is not, as we all now know, it took a long time for the data to be gathered and for scientists and governments, really. I think the key thing here is for governments to be convinced that coronavirus can be transmitted in two kind of clear, distinct ways. What's called formites, which is surface-based, contact-based contamination. Close-up contact, where you might be breathing in droplets of a certain size, and also airborne pathogen. That's the one that really caught us all in you know, kind of the Achilles heel, if you like, because that's really quite challenging to handle. And also we weren't prepared for that as a nation. In fact, the world wasn't really prepared for how we deal with that. But that basically means when you bring people together, you create a little bit of risk. But what we can do is create a ground zero kind of effect. So when your exhibitors all come in and set up, you've got different people entering the building. You want to completely remove any risk from that setting so that when you start your show on the 14th of October, you know everyone coming into that building is coming into the most secure environment that they possibly can. And I know you've got your other measures in place to manage the actual kind of risk of people coming in, which is absolutely on point and aligned to what the broader event industry is doing. And I used to work in the event industry for 20 years, so I've been watching it all very, very closely. So this is kind of, if you like, the best practice approach. So you've got your core infection prevention mechanisms in place, and this is that top best practice element on top.
That's great. And obviously, I know, in terms of, I think you mentioned on the technology there, we're going to be fogging, is that right?
Fogging and electrostatic spray. Those two are combined. They are truly quite compelling as to what we can achieve. We can do huge spaces with the passive fogging, and then we can get into those really awkward, difficult to reach places with the electrostatic. Electrostatic basically means it wraps and clings 360 degrees to whatever you pointed at.
Awesome. So, guys, there you have it. You know, Abby, it's absolutely fantastic. Sanondaf Hampshire South are our safe event partners. Pleasure to work with. You know, they're going to be there, as Abby quite rightly said, giving us the, I suppose, the COVID secure environment from the off, starting off the day right in the right way. So, guys, if you're not registered for your free ticket yet, head straight to HampshireBusinessShow.com. You know, Thursday, 14th of October. I think we're 9 weeks away at this point of filming this interview, and I look forward to seeing you there. Abby, I look forward to seeing you and the team in October.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Josh.
Yes, take care.
Bye.